$3. That was the price my own son placed on me the night everything changed. I didn't realize it at first. The room was full of laughter, glasses clinking, people smiling as if nothing unusual had happened. Outside in the driveway, a brand new luxury car sat shining under the porch lights with a giant red bow on top. Everyone was celebrating. But inside my hand, there were just $3 crumpled. And in that moment, I understood something that took me 68 years to learn. Sometimes the people you sacrifice your entire life for are the same ones who forget your worth. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I simply stood up, walked out the door, and blocked my son. What happened next changed both of our lives forever. Welcome to my YouTube channel Whisper Stories, where silence speaks. My name is Daniel, and I am 68 years old. At 68, a man believes he has already experienced every kind of disappointment life can offer. You think the years have hardened you enough that nothing can truly hurt anymore. After all, you've spent decades raising children, sacrificing comfort, working long hours, and quietly putting your own dreams aside so the next generation can have a better life. But sometimes the deepest wounds do not come from enemies. They come from the people you raised with your own hands. And the day my son gave his mother-in-law a brand new BMW with a giant red bow, while handing me $3, was the day I realized something about love, respect, and self-worth that took me 68 years to learn. I was not always an old man sitting alone in a small apartment. There was a time when I was strong. I worked 35 years as a mechanic. My hands were always covered in grease, my back constantly aching, but I never complained. Every extra shift, every late night, every holiday I worked instead of resting, it was all for my family. My son Michael was the center of my world. When he was little, he used to run into the garage after school, his tiny shoes echoing across the concrete floor. Dad, can I help you?" he would say. Of course, he was too small to help with engines or tools, but I would always give him something simple to do: hold a flashlight, pass a wrench, pretend to tighten a bolt. Those small moments meant everything to me. Back then, he looked at me like I was the strongest man alive. And for a father, there is no greater feeling. Life was not always easy. After my wife passed away when Michael was only 12, it became just the two of us. I had to learn how to cook, clean, and be both mother and father at the same time. There were nights when I skipped dinner so he could have more food. There were birthdays where I worked overtime just to afford a small gift. When he wanted to go to college, I sold my old pickup truck, the same truck I had owned for 20 years, to help pay for his tuition. I never regretted it. Because when he graduated and hugged me with tears in his eyes, he said something I will never forget. "Dad, one day I'll take care of you the way you took care of me." At the time, I believed him. Years passed. Michael found a good job in finance. He moved to the city, bought a large house, and eventually married a woman named Laura. Laura came from a wealthy family. Her parents lived in a huge house with marble floors and expensive paintings. The first time I visited them, I felt like I had accidentally walked into a museum. They were polite to me, but there was always something in their tone that made me feel smaller. Like I didn't belong in their world. Still, I told myself it didn't matter. As long as my son was happy, that was enough. Or at least, that's what I thought. Last Christmas, Michael invited both families to his house for dinner. "Dad, you have to come," he said over the phone. "It'll mean a lot to me." I arrived early, carrying a small hummused apple pie. It wasn't fancy, but it was a recipe my late wife used to make. When I walked into the living room, I noticed something unusual. In the driveway outside, there was a brand new black BMW, parked with a massive red bow on top. At first, I assumed it belonged to a neighbor. But then Laura's mother walked into the room, smiling brightly. "Oh, Michael, you shouldn't have," she said. Everyone gathered near the window. Michael walked outside and handed her a set of keys. "This is for you," he said proudly. "Thank you for always supporting us." The room filled with applause. Laura hugged him. Her parents were nearly crying with happiness. I stood in the corner, quiet. A BMW. With a red bow. I told myself not to think about it. Gifts were not a competition. Love wasn't measured by price tags. Still, something inside my chest felt heavy. After dinner, Michael approached me. "Dad," he said, reaching into his pocket, "I got something for you too." I smiled. I wasn't expecting anything big. Honestly, a simple hug would have been enough. He handed me a small folded bill. $3. I stared at it for a moment, confused. "Gas money," he said casually, "for the drive home." He laughed a little. Some people at the table chuckled politely. But something inside me went silent. 35 years of working. 20 years of raising him alone. Selling my truck for his education. And in that moment, the value of everything I had given him was $3. No one noticed when I stood up. No one stopped me when I walked toward the door. Outside, the cold winter air hit my face like a wake-up call. The BMW sat in the driveway, shining under the porch lights, the red bow still perfectly tied on the hood. I looked at it for a long moment. Then I looked down at the $3 in my hand. For the first time in years, I felt tears in my eyes. Not because of the money, but because of the message behind it. Sometimes people do not realize how loudly their actions speak. I drove home slowly that night. The house felt quiet when I stepped inside. Too quiet. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my phone. Michael had sent a message. "Did you get home safe?" For a moment, I considered responding. Then I remembered the laughter. The $3. The feeling of standing invisible in a room full of people. I blocked his number. The next few weeks were difficult. Loneliness has a way of creeping into empty spaces. But something unexpected also happened. Peace. For the first time in years, I stopped waiting for appreciation from someone who didn't see my value. I started focusing on small things again. Morning coffee. Walks in the park. Conversations with neighbors. Life became quieter, but also lighter. 3 months later, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, Michael was standing there. He looked tired. Older somehow. "Dad, can we talk?" he asked. We sat at the kitchen table where he had eaten thousands of meals as a child. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Finally, he said softly, "I didn't understand why you left that night." I slid the $3 across the table. He stared at it. And suddenly, he understood. His eyes filled with tears. "I never meant to hurt you," he said. "Maybe not," I replied quietly, "but sometimes people don't realize they're hurting someone until it's too late." That night didn't magically fix everything. Healing takes time. But it started something important. A conversation. An awareness. A reminder that respect should never be assumed, it should be practiced. Today I am still Daniel. I am still 68 years old. And I have learned a lesson that many people only discover after a lifetime. Love should never make you feel small. And no amount of money can replace simple respect. Moral of the story. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself is the courage to walk away from disrespect, even when it comes from people you love, because true family is not measured by expensive cars or grand gestures. It is measured by the quiet, everyday respect we show one another.